Fantastic. Thank you, Michael. Welcome, everyone, to my presentation on cybersecurity, keeping yourself safe online. My name is George Dillman, and I'm the Consumer Outreach Specialist with the Pennsylvania Department of Banking and Securities. So what is cybersecurity? I think we all know this, doesn't hurt to cover it. Cybersecurity is keeping everything you do on the internet safe so that no one can steal your information for their own gain. Why is it important? Whether you use the internet all the time or on occasion, keeping yourself protected is important. And this is what we're going to be talking about today: safe web browsing, online shopping, mobile devices, strong passwords, social media, and identity theft. So first, we need to start with a clean slate. We want to use the most recent versions of browsers and operating systems. We want to keep our antivirus and other software up to date as well. As these things start to age, it gets easier for cyber criminals to hack into them, break the code, get into them, get into our systems. So we need to keep our devices updated on a regular basis. With some devices, we could set up automatic updates, and with others, we could at least set up like alerts, alerting us that there are updates available to go ahead and update our systems. But we need to keep them updated on a regular basis. All right, safe surfing, encrypted websites versus unencrypted websites, HTTPS versus HTTP. Traditionally, and I'll come back and explain what I mean by traditionally, but traditionally we go onto a website. I go on to, say, my favorite retail website, bigboxretailer.com. In the web address, I should see HTTP : the two dots, / www.bigboxretailer.com. I shop, I put things into my shopping cart, I go to check out. When I go to check out, I'm now going to a page where I'm going to be exchanging personal sensitive information with the company. On that page, I should now, rather than HTTP, I should now see HTTPS. The S stands for secure. It means I now have a secure encrypted connection between me and that company. Nobody should be able to see or most importantly, steal my information. Now, I say traditionally because a lot of, more and more sites now, the minute you're going onto the website, you're starting to see that HTTPS, that S for secure. S for secure, sometimes, especially with mobile devices, we'll see that little padlock, means the same thing. So the S or the padlock, sometimes we see both, which is okay. But more and more sites now, the minute you're hopping on their site, they're making their site secure, encrypted. They realized it's just as easy to make it a secure encrypted connection between you and them the minute we hop on, as opposed to waiting until we're going to be sending them some type of sensitive personal information. Now, that doesn't mean if we go onto a website and we don't see it, that we don't have a secure connection. With that site, if and when we go to a page where we are going to be exchanging personal sensitive information, like our name and credit card information to make a purchase, on that page we should now see that S for secure and or that little padlock. I say that because every so often, not too long ago, I went on a couple sites where I did not see. I was looking to purchase gift cards, and I went to check out, and I did not see that S for secure connection or that little padlock. I got off the sites. That told me that I did not have a safe connection. There was a chance somebody could take my information. So we got to be careful. We want to keep an eye out for that. Check the privacy policy, companies' privacy policies. Most of them have them posted somewhere on their websites. If it's difficult to find, that could be a red flag. Gee, why aren't they, putting this out there where we could see it, we could review it? Privacy policies, first of all, tell us what information a company collects from us. And we got to be careful. When I say we got to be careful, if they start asking us for some personal sensitive information, more than ordinary, like social security numbers, dates of birth. Gee, why are they asking me for this information? But privacy policies tell us what a company collects, how they store it, how secure, and maybe most importantly, how secure they keep that information. And of course, whether or not they're selling that information to third parties or not. It should all be disclosed in that privacy policy. If a company is deemed to have a good, solid, secure site, they could get issued that the trust seal that you see on the slide, that little red shield with the white check mark. Not always given out for that reason, but a lot of times it is. If you see that seal, it should mean that it is a trusted site. Switching up a little bit, we want to clear our browsing history on a regular basis. You want to check your browser for instructions. Each browser has different ways to do it, a different process to get there, 2, 3, or 4-step process. Basically, every page that we go on to, there's like a snapshot of that page kept in our browsing history. And if somebody gets into our system, there's a lot of information they can steal just by reviewing, finding our browsing history. So we want to clear those out every so often. All right, this is part of an actual email that I got from what I'll call big box retailer. Some very important information this was at the bottom of the email that I got from them. And I saw this section down at the bottom. I thought I need to share this with people in my cybersecurity presentation. It starts off by saying big box retailer protects your security and privacy. We will never ask for personal information such as passwords or credit card numbers in an email. If you receive such a request, please do not respond. Basically, what they're telling us, if we get an email like that from them, it's not them. It's a fake email. But George, I get emails from them all the time. It's the same email. The company name, the logo, everything is in place. In this day and age, it's very easy to copy and paste and Photoshop things to make it look like we got an email from a trusted source. Even the email address, which they can hide the actual email address and make it look like that email came from a trusted source with the email address. We'll talk more about that shortly. But that's what they're telling us, that if we get an email from them that is asking for, social security number, passwords, things like, it's not them. Don't respond to it, delete it, and I would personally, I would make sure they knew that somebody was doing this, to be maybe alert people or to be on guard that somebody is using their information to try to steal information off people. So that was important in itself. It goes on to say, learn more about online safety and see our privacy policy by hitting that link. That alone tells me they have a good, sound, solid privacy policy. They put it right there for you, right there, the link. You can click on that and go directly to their privacy policy to review it. I did go to their privacy policy and of course confirmed that it is a good, sound, solid privacy policy. Again, if it's difficult to find a company's privacy policy, we may have to ask why. Finally, at the bottom of the slide is the date. That date is important. I've seen dates at the bottom of websites all the time. You go down to the bottom of somebody's website. This is at the bottom of the email, but at the bottom of a company's website, you should see a date. Some companies are using date ranges now, but you should see a date. I always wondered what that date was for. I did some research, and I didn't need to do much to find out that date essentially is the last time that company updated their website, probably including security to their site. So if we see an older date, may want to tread carefully with using that site. Yeah, they need to keep their sites updated like we need to keep our devices updated. They might be able to get hacked into. So we got to watch that. Now the date here, when I created this slide last year, so as of as of the date that I created this slide, their site was up to date, 2021. And I went onto their site and it now says 2022. Again, sometimes you should see date, you'll see date ranges. More and more I'm seeing date ranges now. And that last date should be the last date that site was updated. So again, check the date out. I've done that. There was 2 sites that I went on to, a year or so ago. And last year, because the one site I remember vividly, down the bottom, 2016. That told me the last time they updated their website was 5 years prior. There's a lot that can happen. There's a lot that can change. A system can get pretty old pretty fast in a 5-year period. So I didn't want to chance it. I got off the site and I went to other sites. But so check the date out at the bottom of the website as well. All right, using Wi-Fi safely at home, be sure to keep your router secure with a strong password. Do not share that password with anybody. That's kind of a no-brainer, and I always jokingly say, oh no, George, up here in Pike County, we share our passwords with everybody. In fact, we just have one password that everybody in the county uses. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm not trying to, what I am saying is we really want to be careful with who we share our passwords with. I say that because I do another check out my presentation on avoiding identity theft. In that presentation, I'll talk about how, unfortunately, sometimes the people that steal our identity are people that we know, family members, friends, co-workers, people that come into our homes. They might find information lying around that they might be able to use against us. So, sometimes, sometimes the closest people are the ones that will steal our identity and use it against us. So on that note, we really want to be careful with who we share passwords with. I personally don't share my passwords with anybody. Better safe than sorry, so to speak. In public, using public Wi-Fi can be risky. Avoid financial and personal transactions. Some or a lot of these free public Wi-Fi systems that are out there have little to no security on them. So we need to make sure that we have a secure connection. We have to watch with what we share with people. We'll talk more about that and what we can do to make a site secure at a later point in the presentation. All right, password do's and don'ts. We're going to talk about password don'ts first. On this slide is a password that's still commonly used. No matter how many times we're told not to use this password, it's still being used by people. What is that password? It's password or password one. Also, other easily guessed words or phrases like QWERTY, which is the top row of keys on the keyboard, ABC 1, 2, 3, sequential numbers. Even things like names, birth dates, and phrases or other easily guessed words we want to stay away from. And here's the example that I use. Say I have a cat at home, and my cat's name is Princess Fluffy. And I love my Princess Fluffy. I'm always taking photos of her and posting them to social media, bragging to all 6,000 of my friends about her with the finger quotes. And I'm saying friends with the finger quotes because how many people really have that many friends? At least some, if not a lot, of these so-called friends are cyber criminals looking to steal information from us and other people. I hear this all, I read it and hear it all the time, that one of the places we tend to share more personal sensitive information than anywhere else is on social media. Guess who knows this? Our friendly cyber criminals. So we really want to be careful with what we put out there. And we also have to remember that sometimes once we put it out there, it can be very difficult to get it back. So we really want to be careful with what we put out there. So coming back to the password, to Princess Fluffy, right? So the last thing that I want to use as my password is Princess Fluffy or Princess Fluffy 1, because all 6,000 of my friends with the finger quotes, know about her. Down at the bottom, it also says, do not use the same password for multiple accounts. If we use the same password for every site that we go onto, and somebody does figure out the password, no brainer there, right? They now have our password for every site that we go to. So we want to use a different password for every site. Keep track of them somehow. Write them down. We can use a password manager. We can download and use a password manager on our computing devices. Password managers will store, manage, and even create strong passwords for us. Something else that we can do, in fact, this is what I now do with most of my passwords. I was listening to a cybersecurity expert on a talk radio program about a year or so ago, and he talked about how, he said, you think about it, a lot of the sites that we go to, we don't really go to on a regular basis. You know, some of these sites, or a lot of these sites, we might visit every 3 to 6 months. He says the sites that you don't go to on a regular basis, maybe what we can do is create a password, use that password for as long as we need to use the site, and then get rid of the password, destroy it, shred it, whatever we need to do. And then 3 to 6 months later, when we need to access that site again, we create a new password. When we no longer need it, we get rid of it. 3 to 6 months later, we do it again. And then that way, we're not keeping track of all these passwords, many of which we don't really use on a regular basis. And on the next slide, we'll talk about another good reason for doing that. Kind of killing two birds with one stone, as the old saying goes. All right, password do's. First of all, the longer the better. Experts say that we should be using at least 8 to 10 characters, maybe even more, 12, 14 characters, but at least 8 to 10 characters. We want to be using capital letters, lowercase letters, numbers, and even non-alphanumeric characters like pound signs and exclamation points, if we can. Sometimes we can't, but if we can. And we want to change those passwords, especially to our most vulnerable accounts on a regular basis. Our email password may be the most important. Apparently, the longer passwords hang out there, the easier it is for cyber criminals, again, either to figure out, to crack the code, whatever they do. So it's highly recommended we change passwords, especially to our most vulnerable accounts, on a regular basis. That goes back to those sites that we don't go to on a regular basis. That site that I go to maybe every 3 to 6 months. If I get rid of the password and then 3 to 6 months later, I need to go back onto the site and I need to create a new password, with that site, as well as every other site that I don't visit on a regular basis, every 3 to 6 months, I'm changing those passwords, which is a good thing. All right, this is a slide that a colleague of mine updated this presentation for us, and she created this slide, and I think it's a great slide showing us how we can turn a very risky password into a very strong password. And we're going to use as an example the one right in the middle, password itself, right? On the left-hand side, we see password as somebody might normally spell it. Very risky, very easy to figure out. But we see in the middle block how they made it, this person made it a little bit more difficult to figure out the password. They have a 1 in front, they lowercase the P and the A, they use 2 capital S's. Word is lowercase, and they used an exclamation point on the end. They just now made it a little harder to figure that password out. On the right-hand side, we see the best form of that password, the strongest version of that password. We see how they, again, the 1 is in front. They use the lowercase p. They're using the @ sign rather than a small a. Still looks like a small a. If we want to try and memorize this, still looks like a small a, but they're using the @ sign. They're using 2 dollar signs rather than capital S's. Still look like capital S's, but they're using 2 dollar signs. Lowercase w, a 0 rather than an O. It looks like an O. Lowercase r, lowercase lowercase r, capital D, exclamation point. We've now just turned a very weak password into a very strong password, and we're still using password 1. Now, I'm not saying to use some different version of password itself, but we could use this with other names, other words, other phrases. I could take Princess Fluffy 1, change it up enough that even though all my 6,000 friends know about her, I could change it up enough that it would be very difficult for somebody to figure out the password that I used, using her name. All right, using security questions. We want to use questions only we know the answer to. We want to stay away from easily guessed security questions like your mother's maiden name, your pet's name. Common question, what is your favorite pet's name? All 6,000 of my social media friends know that it's Princess Fluffy. So we want to stay away from those. If we can, maybe create our own questions. I've offered this as an option, especially if we can't create our own questions and they're very limited on the security questions we have. Maybe come up with nonsensical answers to commonly asked security questions. And here's the example: mother's maiden name, Blue Tricycle 28. Well, whose last name is Blue Tricycle 28? Certainly not my mother's maiden name. So you come up with nonsensical answers to commonly asked questions, write them down, keep them in a safe place, in case we need to refer back to them. And that way it makes it very difficult for somebody to figure out the answer. All right, phishing, emails and smishing text messages. Do you know the sender? Check for grammar and spelling. When in doubt, don't click it, delete it. I mentioned before with the slide that I had, that email that I got, the bottom of the email, the company mentioning, and if we get an email from them asking for any personal sensitive information, that it's not them. People can and will send out fake emails that appear to be from trusted sources. So we have to be careful. Here's another example of that. Rather than a retail, I get an email from my local bank, Susie at my local, and maybe I get emails from Susie all the time from my local bank, Susie@yourbank.com. Hello, Mr. Dillman. This is Susie at your local bank. The bank is updating its records, and we're reaching out to all of our customers, asking them to give us to confirm all of their information for us, so we make sure we have updated information on their files. If you could hit the link below, that'll take you to another page where you can confirm all your information for us. So I want to help my bank out, help out Susie. I hit the link below, I go to another page, and I confirm my name, my address, my date of birth, my social security number, my telephone number, my bank account information, my bank account numbers, passwords, or whatever they're asking me for. How do I really know this email came from Susie at my local bank? Just like with the retailer, I might get emails from them all the time. I might get emails from Susie all the time, and it looks like it came from a trusted source, but it could be a fake email. Again, in this day and age, very easy to copy and paste and Photoshop things to make it look like it came from a trusted source. So we hit that link. Oh, including the email address, and we'll talk more about that shortly. With what looks like a legitimate email address but isn't. So one thing we can do, to make sure, let me make sure this is my bank emailing me. I could reach out to them by telephone and talk to the bank, maybe reach out to Susie. Maybe she's my contact at the bank, and probably to confirm that it wasn't the bank that sent me this email. It came from an untrusted source. So we want to be careful. We want to be careful with that. Before we respond to anything, let's make sure. Oh, by the way, by hitting that link, not only by, we go to that page and we give them information, but maybe by hitting that link without knowing it, we're releasing and downloading some malicious software to our computing device. We don't even know that it's happening. That might allow that scammer to go into our computing device anytime they want to steal information. So we have to be careful. We have to be careful with hitting links. We have to be careful with opening attachments. Maybe I get an email from my buddy Joe. Hey George, how you doing? This is Joe. Hey, I wrote a letter to the electric company. Can you open up the attached letter, take a look at it, make sure it looks good, make sure everything looks, So I want to help my buddy Joe out. I open up the attached letter and I review it, not knowing that somebody actually hacked into Joe's email account, got his entire email contact list, and everybody in his contact list got this email with this attachment. And by opening up that attachment, just by hitting, just the same as hitting that link, by opening up that attachment, we're downloading some nasty software, malicious software to our computing device that we don't want to do. So we have to be careful. Have to be careful. Again, I'm probably going to reach out to Joe by telephone to actually ask him if he actually sent me this email, or Susie at the local bank. Same thing with text messages. We get a text message supposedly from a trusted source. What has been popular over the last couple holiday seasons with a lot of people online shopping, but it goes up even more so over the holiday season, people shopping for the holidays. You get this text message supposedly from Amazon or supposedly from FedEx or UPS, something in relation to your last order, something happened to your last order, your information was compromised or whatever. Please hit this link, go to this page. We need to confirm all your information again, and so on and so forth. So again, you hit that link, you go to the page. Not only do you give somebody who you don't information that you don't want to give information to, but again, by hitting that link, you might be downloading something nasty to your computer. So we want to be careful. Again, check it out. If you know it's not a legitimate email or text message. I get that text message supposedly from Amazon, and I know I didn't order anything. I don't order anything. Say in this scenario, I don't order anything through Amazon. Well, then I pretty much know it's a fake text message or an email if they supposedly sent me an email. All right, something else that we can do. Now, of course, this only works with a computing device where we have a mouse and an arrow. Something called the hovering technique. I get that email from Susie at my local bank, and I want to confirm that Susie actually sent this email. I mean, in the email address, it says, Susie@yourbank.com, and I might have gotten emails from her before. But just to make sure, I want to confirm that email actually came from her. What you can do, again, this devices with a mouse, you can take the arrow and place the arrow over top of the email address. You place your arrow over top of the email address, and a box will pop up. Now, in the email address, it tells you where that email was, came from. Susie@yourbank.com. But in the box that pops up, it'll tell you where that email actually came from. Now, if it came from Susie@yourbank.com, it'll say Susie@yourbank.com. But if it's anything different, and I'm going to be silly here, but Johnny Scammer at scammersrus.com, anything different, it didn't come from the legitimate source. It came from from elsewhere, probably some scammer trying to get something from us. So we don't want to respond to it. We do, delete it. Maybe even in this situation, I'm going to notify my bank as well. So the hovering technique, we can do that with websites as well. Again, my favorite big box retailer website, bigboxretailer.com. I get this pop-up ad, big box retailer, today only, everything 50% off in electronics. Oh my God, I hit the pop-up ad, I go to the website, I shop, I put things in my cart, I check out, I give them all my information, only to find out at some later point that I wasn't on the actual website, I was on a fake website. But George, just like the email, but George, I go to their website all the time, the name, the logo, everything. Again, very easy to copy and paste and Photoshop things. And being redirected there, we could actually be getting redirected to a fake website. Again, it may say www.bigboxretailer up in the web address, but by utilizing that hovering technique, again, we place that arrow over top of the web address in this case, and a box will pop up. And in that box, it'll tell us where we're actually at. And if we're at a different place, it'll tell us. Again, scammersrus.com as opposed to bigboxretailer.com. One thing that we can do with the retailers, we see that pop-up ad, or there's a link to link us directly to the website. One thing we can do to make sure we actually go to the website is go to that website the way we normally do. Maybe I type in their web address and I go directly there so I know I'm on their website. But that's another way that we can do it with that hovering technique, just like with the emails. Now, what we really want to watch out for, I was a little silly with those different addresses. What we really want to look out for are those slight, subtle differences. And here's the example. I hover over that email address from Susie@yourbank.com. The box pops up. And in the box, it says Susie@yourbank.com. Oh, okay, it came from, oh, wait a second. In the box that popped up, it says Susie@your-bank.com. That one difference, that one slight subtle difference is the difference from actually getting the email from Susie or getting it from another source. So that's what we really want to look out for, those small, slight, subtle differences. Same thing with the web address. I go to the website, I hover over the web address, and the box pops up and it says www.bigboxretailer.com. Oh, okay. Oh, wait a second. In the box that pops up, box is spelled with a 0 rather than an O. Again, that one slight subtle difference is the difference from being actually on the website or being on a different site. So keep an eye out for that. And again, utilizing the hovering technique is another way we can find out whether it's legit or not. All right, moving on to social media. It's huge and it's getting huger, and I think it's here to stay. Staying safe while posting, liking, or sharing. Don't accept every friend request. Do any of us really need 6,000 friends? As I mentioned before, at least some, if not a lot of these so-called friends, people that friend us on social media, are scammers, cyber criminals looking to steal information from us. So we really want to be careful. Don't trust everything you see. Consider the personal things you share in each platform. Yeah, these scammers might, again, we tend to share more personal, sensitive information on social media than anywhere else. And they also may try to bait us into giving them some of this personal information. Here's an example. Hey, friend. Hey, when's your birth date? Next time it's your birthday, I'm going to send you one of those birthday e-cards. Okay, friend, here you go. Here's my date of birth. Now I just gave somebody who I probably really don't know my date of birth. They have my name. Good chance they could have my address, a few more key pieces of information like my social security number, and they can have enough information to steal my identity and use it against me. So we really want to be careful. And again, like I mentioned earlier, once it's out there, it could be difficult to get it back. So we really want to think long and hard before we share anything, especially on social media. Think twice before downloading extras. Again, those links that we hit, the attachments, things that we download. We could be downloading something nasty to our computers that we don't want to download. So we really got to be careful. Keep personal information personal. Limit who can see your social media pages. All right, moving on to mobile devices. More than 65% of Americans own a smartphone. Who knows, that number may be higher now. Here's my smartphone. Whether we like it or not, these things are computing devices. So we need to treat them as such. First, we need to lock them, just like any other other computing devices. We need to lock them. So you need some type of PIN or passcode in order to get into them. Because all we need to do is lay our phones down, like our phones down someplace. We come back a minute later, it's gone. And if we didn't lock it, somebody has access to all that information. We need to keep them updated like our other devices. Again, as those updates are available, we need to update our smartphones because again, the longer we wait, the easier it is for somebody to access. Never text personal information. Consider what you keep, and if you do, back it up on the cloud or another computing device. Be careful with applications. These third-party applications from companies we're not really sure about. I see this pop-up ad for this new retail site, Big John's Big Discounts. Every day, everything 50% off. Oh my God. So I go to their site and I shop. Oh, and I find out when I go to their site that if I download their ad, I download their app, I'm going to get a $200 credit towards my first purchase. Oh my God. So I download their app to my computing device. I shop, I put things in a shopping cart, I check out, give them all my info, only to find out again at a later point that this was a fake website just created to collect people's information. And by just like the opening the attachments and down and hitting those links, by downloading a third-party app from a company we're not really sure about, we could be downloading some malicious software to our computing device. Experts say more than 1/3 of applications that are downloaded to computing devices have malicious software attached to them. So we really have to be careful. We really want to make sure that it's a legitimate, trusted source before we download their app to our device. Using unsecured Wi-Fi enables secure or encrypted connections. As I mentioned earlier, more and more sites are making their sites secure and encrypted the minute we're hopping on them now, which is a good thing. If they're not, there may be somewhere on their site that we can make a secure connection between us and them, especially when we're using public Wi-Fi. We could also download and use a VPN, a virtual private network. Virtual private networks make everything secure that you're exchanging back and forth with anybody. Very, very good to have if we use those free Wi-Fi hotspots a lot. And finally, on this slide, wipe your device before getting a new one. We can do it ourselves. A colleague of mine mentioned how we could go back and reset, wipe our devices ourselves, or we could, maybe have it done for us before we exchange the device for a new one. No matter how many times we delete things and empty trash cans, somewhere on that device, all this information that we've ever kept is, saved, sent, exchanged with people, all that information, compressed and is held somewhere on that device. And say I'm exchanging my phone for a new one, and I don't wipe the device myself, or somebody else, or I don't have somebody else do it for me. The wrong person knows the right, gets a hold of that phone and knows the right place to look, a lot of information that they can take. So whether we do it ourselves or we have somebody do it, we need to wipe our devices clean. Doing it ourselves, we just look for, it can be worded different ways with different phones. Some phones, it's, resetting to factory settings, resetting the phone to factory settings, which kind of wipes everything out. Could be a little bit of a process. Could for us people that aren't good with the IT stuff, might be a little difficult, especially backing things up before we erase and so on and so forth. So we could also find a trusted person to wipe these devices for us before we hand them in. All right. Commonwealth Cybersecurity Resource. This is a website that was created by a partnership, actually, of several different agencies. A lot of good information on cybersecurity on this website. At least some, or maybe a lot of which I've covered. There's probably additional information on there that you can look at. So certainly check this website out. Notice it says HTTPS for secure. So it's https://www.pa.gov/guides/cybersecurity. All right, a few tips on protecting your identity. Identity thieves scan the internet for personal information. Store and dispose of your personal information properly. Ask questions before you give your personal information out. Make sure they're legitimate sources. And even with legitimate sources, we really want to be careful with who we give information, to. Even if it's a trusted source. Gee, do you really need my social security number and date of birth? Two key pieces of information, by the way, somebody can use to steal our identity. So, make sure, gee, like with the social security number, gee, if you really need my social, can I give you just the last 4 digits? Not that I don't trust you. It's just, we don't want, too much of our information out there for the wrong person to find and use. All right, if you become a victim, stop the losses. First of all, I'm going to jump down to checking your credit reports. We should be checking our credit reports at least once a year. Credit reports, checking our credit reports one surefire way of knowing whether somebody has stolen our identity and is using it or not, because it should show up on our credit reports when we check them. And so we do that. We check our credit reports and we find out in the last 2 months, there was, there 2 credit cards opened in my name that I know I didn't open. There was a loan taken out in my name that I know I didn't do. There was a car purchased in my name that I knew I didn't purchase. All this stuff happening. Somebody stole my identity. They're using it against me. What do I do? First thing I want to do is reach out to those 3 main credit reporting bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And I want to report it to them. Hey, somebody stole my ID. There's things on my credit report that I did not do, that I did not create. They will take those things off your credit report and they'll do an investigation, basically to confirm that it wasn't you that put those on there, it was somebody else, and they should keep those off permanently then by doing that. Also, we reach out to them because through them we can freeze our accounts. We can do a credit freeze on all of our accounts. It's easy and it's free to do. And then that way, no new activity can take place until we straighten this out. And at that point, we can take a step back, take a deep breath, and walk through the process of reporting identity theft. One place we want to report it to is local police. A couple reasons we do this. As I mentioned earlier, unfortunately, sometimes the identity thief is somebody that we know. Could be somebody close to home. So we report it to the local police. Hopefully they have somebody available that can do an investigation and possibly find the person who stole our ID. Also, through them, we want to submit a police report, and we want to get a copy of that police report and the police report number. It's basically a report that says it's a verified report that says, hey, not on this person, on somebody else. And here's the report, here's the official report, and they're in the process of clearing it up. So we want to do that. We want to report it to the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office. We want to keep a notebook. We want to keep all conversations that take place. We want to keep a notebook or take notes. Keep those in a safe place with the police report. We also want to report it to the Federal Trade Commission. Through the Federal Trade Commission, FTC.gov, we can link to identitytheft.gov. Identitytheft.gov is a complete walkthrough process for reporting identity and to start a recovery plan for our identity. It's like a checkoff sheet for everything that we need to do, a step-by-step checkoff sheet for everything that we need to do for reporting identity theft and to start that recovery plan. What we need to do, how we need to do it, who we need to contact, how we need to contact them. If we need to write a letter, they'll tell us we need to write a letter. They'll give us sample letters that we can use. Great walkthrough process for doing it. And as we're doing that, we're creating another report that we want to get a copy of from the FTC, an official report from the Federal Trade Commission against it, not on this person, on somebody else. Here's the official report. We want to get a copy of that report. We want to make sure the 3 credit bureaus are aware that we have this report. That report alone should keep everything that we said was not ours permanently off of our credit reports. And we keep that report from identitytheft.gov in a safe, secure place with our other report and our notes in case we need to refer back to any of them either next week, next month, next year. We have them available. All right, coming to the end, coming to the resource section now. State resources, Pennsylvania Department of Banking and Securities. Our agency, our toll-free number, by the way, 800 PA Banks or 722-2657. Our agency regulates those industries in the Commonwealth. If anyone ever has a question, a problem, an issue as it relates to that, they can reach out to us. We have an in-house staff that will take phone calls Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, normal business hours. You call during those days and times, you should get a live voice answering the phone. If you don't get a live voice answering the phone, you leave a message and somebody should get back to you within 24 business hours. Our website is www.dobbs, stands for Department of Banking and Securities, www.dobbs.pa.gov. Check out our website. A lot of good information for consumers on our website. Same thing with the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office. First of all, reach out to them to report identity theft or like frauds or scams that are attempted. 800-441-2555. Their web address is attorneygeneral.gov. On top of reporting identity theft to them or scams to them that have been, done to you, another good resource of information. Check out their website. Check out the information they have on their website. Local police department locator, www.policelocator.com/PA. You're not sure of how to contact the local police, you can look them up. You can look up go into localpolicelocator.com/PA to find your local police department. Moving on to federal resources, the Federal Trade Commission, FTC. Their website, I think all you need to remember or write down is www.ftc.gov. And through there, you can link to identitytheft.gov. You can go to ftc.gov/ID theft, or you can go directly to identitytheft.gov to report identity theft. Their toll-free number, if you want to phone, 877-987-3728. And again, check out their website. A lot of good information on their website for consumers as well at www.ftc.gov. And finally, the Internet Crime Complaint Center at www.ic3, With that, we're going to end the presentation. Again, my name is George Dillman. I'm the Consumer Outreach Specialist with the Pennsylvania Department of Banking and Securities. Here's my contact information for anyone who would like to reach directly out to me. They can certainly do that. And with that, I'd like to say thank you for viewing my presentation, and this of course ends the presentation.